Welcome to Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks, a show that provides extraordinary insights for product managers who want to go faster and farther in their product management careers.
Hello, this is JJ Rory, Vice President at Sequent Learning Networks. In our Masters of Product Management podcast, we tap into the experiences of people who work in and around product management to help you learn and grow in your product management career. The Chief Product Officer role is still a fairly new role. I get asked quite often where product management should sit within an organization. Historically, it's typically reported up through either marketing or technology. But more and more, organizations are realizing the value of having a product leader at the executive level, having a seat at the C-suite table when all important decisions are being made. That Chief Product Officer or CPO role is often that executive. And I'm still seeing this role embraced mostly by technology companies at this point, but I am starting to see some glimpses of it in other industries as well. And that makes me really excited to see this change, as it allows that product management function to have a senior level leader bring the PM function to discussions, and in some cases even center product management in the organizational strategies. Product management is not marketing. It's not technology or sales or operations or finance. It's its own function with its own role in the organizational sandbox. Of course, all of these functions play together for the ultimate goal of product and organizational success. But when product has a seat at the table and can drive the company to be more market-driven, customer-driven, and product-driven, I believe that's the best equation for success. My guest today is here to tell us all about her journey to and experience in the CPO role, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Navya Rehani Gupta is the Chief Product Officer at Peak.com, the largest activity marketplace in the U.S. that helps consumers book fun activities such as boat rentals and cooking classes, of which both would be fun, and I definitely need cooking classes, and provides experience operators with powerful software tools to grow their businesses. Prior to Peak, Navya built new business lines at StyleSeat and managed large-scale products at Uber, Disney, and Goldman Sachs. Navya, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me here, JJ.
You bet. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So I'd like to learn a little bit more about your personal story. Can you tell us about your journey? How did you get started?
Yeah, for sure. So growing up, I always had an innate desire to help improve the lives of people, a service before self mentality. And this stems from growing up in a community of doctors in India. Actually, both my parents and my sister are doctors. I knew very early on that medicine wasn't for me, but I actually started programming when I was 15 years old after my dad bought us our first computer, and the rest is history. It was obvious to me that technology could improve our lives. I was intrigued with the hardware aspects and the software aspects of engineering. So I pursued an electronic engineering in the UK and then got a master's in computer science at Stanford University. Pursuing a technical career satisfied my intellectual curiosity, but I'm actually very much a people person. I just couldn't sit in front of a computer and code all day. I wanted a career that could combine these two different worlds, technical and anthropological. I realized that as an engineer, I missed those interactions with the customers who were using the products I was building. That desire to talk to my customers and develop a deep understanding of their pain points led me to the world of product management. So that's really how I got started. And within product management, I've now built products in many, many different types of companies. I started my career at Goldman Sachs, helping rich people get richer. And then from there, I went to work at Disney, Mickey Mouse, a very different world where I was responsible for the Disney mobile network, driving acquisition and retention across all the Disney mobile apps. And then from there, I've been working very much in marketplaces like Uber, StyleSeat, which is the biggest beauty marketplace, and now Peak, which is the biggest experiences marketplace in the country.
I love it. What a great background. So you're now the CPO at Peak. Tell us what that means. Tell us what the CPO role is. Maybe walk us through a typical day-to-day.
Yeah. So a CPO, a Chief Product Officer, is a C-level executive with the responsibility of making decisions that have a company-wide impact, not just a product impact. So as a CPO, you need to understand the end-to-end business. You need to understand what each team in the company does and how does their work impact the company's trajectory. You need to have a deep understanding of your current financials, your shareholder priorities, the customer market perspective, and really help drive decisions at that level. So as a CPO, I'm constantly making decisions that impact the overall growth and the overall profitability of the company. And these decisions also impact our customers' end-to-end businesses. So on a day-to-day, what does my day look like? I'm very intentional about how I spend my time. So I would say it's a third, a third, a third. So a third of my time is around strategy. So strategic business priorities that I drive myself. A third of the time is around alignment. So improving processes, improving our metrics, driving conversations around our product strategy and our product roadmap. And a third is around people. So it's by far my favorite part of the day, interacting with people, helping coach my product managers, helping with hiring, helping growing and retaining talent in the company.
Wow, that's I love how you categorize that a third strategy, a third alignment, and a third people, and obviously they all interact, but and interconnect at some point. But it's interesting that you're very intentional about that. I think that's a lesson that we all can take from that is how you how you manage your time and your priorities, because I can imagine you've got a lot of those these days.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you think? Again, you've been in kind of up the product management ladder. What would you say are the most important skills that have helped you grow up that ladder and in your career?
Yes, it's actually quite similar to what we were just talking about. It's about being intentional with my time. I would say that's been by far the most important skill for me because time for me is my biggest resource. So I spend a lot of time thinking about how to make the best out of it. I create a roadmap for myself, so not for the company, not for the product, but for myself, so that I know what are the most important things that I should be spending my time on. And there are actually 3 buckets of time when I look at my calendar. So they're actually color coded. I have a color coded calendar, and it's broken between planning time, execution time, and reflection time. And the reason for that is, you hear people say, are you running your life or is your life running you? Or some people say, is your day packed or did you pack your day? I know that's a symptom of us just trying to do what's needed, which is why I always take a step back, include planning time so that I can plan how I'm best utilizing my time. There's execution time is typically around 30-minute blocks, getting my emails done, work done, and then reflection time at the end of the week where I sit down and say, did I maximize the impact that I could make, and what are the big strategic things that require my time, and making time for those, whether it means moving around meetings, canceling meetings, just so that I have that thinking time to maximize my impact.
Wow, that's amazing. I think I need to hire you as my life coach. I don't know if you do that on the side, but I'm going to reach out after this. That's amazing.
A color coding of calendars, telling you
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
the trick.
I'm going to do that. Absolutely. I may find myself, though, accidentally reflecting too much. Like my whole week, I just sat around the pool and reflected. Oh, no. Okay. I better not do that. Okay. So I want to dig a little bit on this kind of, time management, if you will, and very specifically about, is there anything that you keep doing yourself, intentionally keep doing yourself, even if it's not something that scales, or even if it's not something that's, executive level per se, or that sort of thing. So things that you want to keep doing yourself, even in the CPO role.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So there is something that I do which I know will not scale, and it's around being very, very close to feedback. So I often say feedback is a gift. So I make time to do a listening tour every quarter. That's something that I block out every quarter to do a listening tour with several people in the company. I meet with them. do these marathon conversations with people in the company, ask them what's going well, how is our product resonating with the customers, what can we do better in the product, what can we do better as a team. And I do the same listening tour with our customers as well. So I know our company continues to grow, and this is something that I won't be able to maintain, but it's always been very, very valuable for me. I hear such great ideas coming from the team members, coming from our customers, that dramatically impact my priorities and the product team priorities.
I love that. That's really great. It is, again, you seem to really have it all together, but I'm sure that you learned a lot along the way. So thinking about your younger self, what advice would you give to that younger Navya as she started to advance further in her career?
Yeah. So, I mean, if I think about, my younger self, like one of the things I really dreaded was networking. I hated that term. It was always positioned as something you should do to advance in your career, but it just didn't come naturally to me. And, I understood that you need to invest in relationships, but it wasn't natural for me to do small talk, go to events. I just dreaded the whole idea. And now my outlook is actually very different. I've realized that the world is smaller than you think, and I never miss a chance to be helpful to someone in my network and create that goodwill for myself. So I've repositioned what networking means by not putting myself in the center, but actually thinking about what do I have that can be used to help others. And it's typically a small investment of time. You usually won't benefit from it, but sometimes you will, and often when you least expect it, that's when your network becomes really helpful. So that would be my advice to myself, to my younger self, on the importance of networking and repositioning in your mind what networking actually is.
I love that. I think a lot of us have that apprehension of networking, and sometimes like you said, just the term itself is a little bit overwhelming, and so that's really good advice. I too am not terribly comfortable with that, and I found it a little bit more. If I could have 5 really great relationships that I can go back to over the years, as opposed to 100 surface relationships, you really do get more out of that. I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it's interesting because it with LinkedIn and other types of social media and that sort of thing. It's easier to have those 100 surface connections, but it's a little bit harder to get those 5 really deep connections and folks that you actually know in your LinkedIn list. I think all of us could probably go to our LinkedIn list and say, oh yeah, I've actually met about half of these people. So, but
Really.
yeah, right. So, very good advice. So what other advice, thinking about the product managers out there listening who, they may have aspirations to be in the CPO role at some point. What advice would you give for them to stand out today in their current roles and then to help them accelerate their careers?
Yeah. So my advice would be to stay inquisitive and actively participate, understand what's going on in other parts of the company, other product lines. And I say that because a product manager's job is hard. It's a full-time job plus more, and you could spend all your time thinking about just doing your job, how to make the best out of your resources, what are the best decisions you can make for your product. And it's easy to say, okay, I don't really care what's happened. What are the decisions that the other product managers are making, or I don't need to really dig into what's going on the other parts of the company. So my advice here is to really stay inquisitive, like actually understand what decisions other people are making, provide your input, ask the tough questions, because that's really going to help you outshine other people in the company and really help the company to make the best decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. Definitely, having that natural curiosity and, demonstrating that. Again, being lifelong learners is another kind of element of that, right? And really embracing the fact that product management is somewhat chaotic, but we are always learning about something. So I think that's great advice. I have one other question that I want to ask. You walked us through kind of your day to day. I'm just curious to know which of the functions within the organization and which levels of the organization would you say you interact more with? Are you in senior leadership meetings more often? Are you working more with your product team? Are you working more with, the peers of your product team? I'm just curious what that looks like in terms of internal interactions and how that breaks out with your CPO role.
Yeah, so my team and the people I spend the most amount of time is actually my peers. So the executive members in different parts of the company. So that would be sales, marketing, operations, finance. So those are the people that I spend the most amount of time with. I align with them, figure out how I can help them, talk to them about how they can help my team. And so that would be the biggest chunk of my time. Other than that, I actually, I would work with people at different levels. So as I said, I do listening tours from, even if it's a support rep, a sales rep, I would spend time with them in many different settings. And then the third would be my PMs, right? So I don't directly work with the engineers or the designers, but my PMs do. So it's really important for me to stay super aligned with them, have the chance to give them feedback, make sure I have a voice in the decisions, make sure they have a chance to get my feedback on any obstacles that they're running into. So those would be the three categories. The first is the executive team members, and second is, almost everybody in the company at different levels. And then third would be the PM group.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that perspective. I think it's important. And what the reason I asked the question is I thought you would answer it in some way like that, because I think it's important for the folks listening, especially those in the product manager role, to realize that, their daily role is to interact with their peers and the cross-functional partners that they have, engineering, sales, marketing, finance, et cetera, especially a lot of engineering. And you're no different, right? The CPO role, again, product management is inherently cross-functional. So you're interacting with your peers, and it's at a higher level, strategic level, however you want to say that, but it's in many ways a microcosm of the product manager role, because you're responsible and your peers are responsible for that kind of organizational strategy. So I think that's an interesting perspective that I wanted those listening to hear from you, because again, product management is cross-functional, period, no matter what role you're in.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, Navya Rehani Gupta, this has just been such a great conversation. CPO at peak.com. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, sharing your experiences. I know I have learned a lot and enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us on Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks. I am JJ Rory, and I look forward to speaking with you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks. If you'd like to take your career to the next level with additional tools, training, coaching, and books, be sure to visit Sequent Learning Networks at sequentlearning.com.